I'm Kenny Kolkas, K&D Livestock. It's a family ranch. There'd be 4 generations of us, with counting the little guys. My son, his family, and my folks. I've been here all my life. We have over 8,000 acres of deeded land. We run 550 cows. They have helped us a lot.
We were working with them on livestock water pipelines, cross fencing, and grazing rotation.
We was on a Great Plains program back in the 80s.
The Great Plains Conservation Program was one of the major NRCS conservation programs nationwide all through the 60s, 70s, 80s, and probably ended about 1990 or shortly thereafter. NRCS strategically locates facilities like this to improve the distribution of our grazing animals. Cattle are typically a lazy species that would not necessarily distribute themselves across the landscape and utilize the grasses evenly. And so what we do with a facility like this is we try to place it strategically to get better use of areas that weren't historically used and to take pressure off the areas that the cattle did prefer. This tank, which is customary for our jobs, is outfitted with what we call a wildlife escape ramp. So if an animal gets in the tank, it's going to run into this ramp where it can climb up and escape the tank before it drowns. It's good for the animals, but it's also good for the quality of the water in the tank, because if those small animals get in and drown and you don't find them for a few days in hot weather, there's a lot of bacteria that gets in the water, and it doesn't bode well for the livestock.
Back in 2011, there was an unusual amount of rain in Powder River County, and a lot of areas the water table rose considerably. So there was a special initiative through EQIP to move feedlots if they needed to be moved out of drainage areas.
I seen an ad in the Broadest paper that I called the NRCS about that we had a feedlot we'd like to move. The NRCS cost shared for us to move it from a creek bottom that was by the house to a better place here.
Their feedlot and where they fed calves in the winter was pretty close to the creek over there.
It was very muddy. It was a spring even where we worried about cattle getting bogged down. We had abandoned it because the water table had raised.
It was a detriment to manure runoff from the corrals running into the creek, as well as detriment to the calves themselves or their health-wise, because it was just turned into a big swamp. This vegetative treatment area, what it does is filter out the manure and any of the excess nutrients or sediment or whatever from the manure will be filtered as it runs across that vegetative treatment area. And so any water at the bottom should be fairly clean. If there is even any that gets to the bottom, that will go into the creek below, which is much cleaner environmentally wise. Kolkas pretty much did all the work on this whole project themselves. From the stream crossing that's down there on the road, they did all the dirt work and everything, to building the pens.
It's all steel, so that hopefully it'll be here a long time.
This is another project we did as part of this feedlot operation. Their main well is over back behind the buildings there. And we either had the option of running a pipeline from there over to here, or to put a separate well with a solar system here. We try to give alternatives with the best cost alternative and the best energy efficiency.
The landowner wanted to optimize grazing and still have a good stand of trees that potentially could provide marketable lumber in the future. The main objective from an agency standpoint would be the health of the trees and the sustainability of owning the land. But I think there was actually 240 live trees in this radius. In 2009, before the treatment, it was just too dense. In fact, when I counted the trees, I mean, I would literally be crawling around in this. I just noticed what a diverse community. There's lots of brush here. There's this skunk bush sumac. There's bluegrasses, green needlegrass growing up in this stand of trees because we've opened it up enough to let the sun and the moisture come in.
One thing that's been really nice over the years with working with Kolkas, once you present them with a design or a job sheet or specs, they will do that project as close to the specs as you can get. And they're just really easy to work with that way.
They were very good to work with. They were eager to get the job done.
NRCS helped us a lot. They helped us get started, and it was a big help.